The question that changes everything. I want you to stop for a second. Not physically, you're probably driving or walking or lying in bed staring at the ceiling right now, but I want your mind to stop, just for a moment. Because I have a question for you, and I need you to really let it land. When was the last time you woke up and felt like your life actually meant something? Not the last time you were happy, not the last time you had a good day, not the last time something went your way. I mean the last time you opened your eyes in the morning and felt a deep, settled, unshakable sense of, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. This matters. Can you remember? If you can, and it was recent, then you're in the right place, and this audiobook will make what you already have even stronger. But if you had to think about it, if you had to go back months or years, or if you honestly can't remember the last time you felt that way at all, then I need you to stay with me right now, because what I'm about to share with you could be the most important thing you've heard in a very long time. I'm going to talk to you about purpose today. Not in the self-help, vision board, write your goals and manifest your dreams way. Not in the way that makes you feel temporarily pumped up and then deflated by Tuesday. I'm going to talk about the real purpose. The kind that lives in your gut, not your head. The kind that doesn't need perfect conditions. The kind that pulls you through the worst days of your life and still makes you grateful to be alive. And here's what I know about you, even though we've never met. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're not behind, you're not failing. You're drifting. And drifting isn't a character flaw. It's not a moral failure. It's simply what happens when a person loses their direction, when the compass stops working and life becomes a series of days that blur into each other, busy but hollow, moving but going nowhere. If that sentence just hit somewhere deep inside you, good. Hold on to that feeling. That discomfort is data. We're going to use it. This audiobook is broken into 7 chapters. Each one builds on the last. Don't skip ahead. Let this work on you the way it's designed to. By the time we reach the end, I promise you one thing. You won't feel the same as you did when you pressed play. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The day I realized I was drifting. I want to tell you about a morning I'll never forget. I woke up, same alarm, same ceiling, same room. I got up, made coffee, sat down, and just sat there. The coffee went cold. I didn't move. I wasn't sad, exactly. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't crying. I was just empty. Like someone had quietly turned the volume off on my life. I had things to do. I had things I was supposed to want. I had a plan, sort of. But none of it felt real. None of it felt like mine. It all just felt like a script I'd been handed by someone else, and I'd been reading my lines so long, I'd forgotten whether I actually believed any of them. That was the morning I realized I had been drifting. Not for a few days, not for a few weeks, for years. Quietly, subtly, moving through life the way a boat moves when no one's steering, carried by currents I hadn't chosen, blown by winds I hadn't noticed, far from any shore I'd actually wanted to reach. And here's what's terrifying about drifting. It doesn't feel dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. There's no moment where everything falls apart. It's gradual. You just slowly stop feeling like you. You stop asking the big questions because you're too busy surviving the small ones. You stop dreaming because dreaming starts to feel dangerous when reality keeps disappointing you. You start settling, not because you gave up, but because settling is quieter, safer, easier than risking something and losing. Sound familiar? I think it does. I think that's why you're here. The thing about drifting is that it creates a very specific kind of pain. Not sharp pain, not the kind that forces you to deal with it. Dull pain, background pain. The kind you learn to live with so well that you almost stop noticing it. Except it shows up in small ways. It shows up as the Sunday dread, that heavy feeling the night before, a week you didn't choose. It shows up as the scrolling, hour after hour, looking for something that numbs the noise. It shows up as irritability, the short fuse, snapping at people you love because the frustration has nowhere else to go. It shows up in the quiet moments, in the shower, on the drive home, in the last minute before sleep takes you, when the truth breaks through and whispers, "This isn't enough. You know this isn't enough." That whisper isn't a weakness. That whisper is the first sign of purpose waking up. Drifting isn't about the absence of activity. You can be incredibly busy and still be completely directionless. In fact, some of the busiest people I've ever known were the most lost. They used busyness as a way to avoid the one question that terrified them most. What do I actually want my life to be? Because that question is dangerous. It demands honesty. It demands courage. It demands that you look at where you are, compare it to where you want to be, and sit with that gap without flinching. Most people don't do that. Most people glance at the gap, feel the pain of it, and then reach for the nearest distraction. Scrolling, drinking, Netflix, work, anything that makes the question quiet down. But the question doesn't go away. It just gets louder over time. So let me ask you something right now, and I want you to just let the answer sit inside you without judging it. Are you where you wanted to be at this point in your life? Not where your parents expected you to be, not where social media tells you you should be. Where you, deep down, genuinely wanted to be when you let yourself dream without limits. If the answer's no, that's okay. That's not failure. That's information. And information is the starting point for everything. The day I realized I was drifting was the day I started to wake up. Not all at once. Slowly, uncomfortably, like returning feeling to a limb that's been numb too long. But it was a beginning. And every journey toward purpose starts the same way, with the honest admission, I've been drifting, and I'm ready to stop.
Chapter 2. What purpose actually is and isn't. Before we go any further, I need to clear something up. Because there is so much noise around the word purpose that it's hard to even hear it anymore without rolling your eyes a little. And I get that. I've rolled my eyes too. Purpose has been wrapped in so much glossy, Instagram-friendly packaging that it barely resembles the real thing anymore. So let me strip it back. Let me tell you what purpose actually is, and then let me tell you what it absolutely isn't. Purpose is not a passion. I know that's not what you expected to hear. We've been told, follow your passion for decades, and the advice sounds great until you realise that passion is an emotion, and emotions are wildly unreliable. Passion surges when things are exciting and new. Passion disappears the moment things get hard. You've probably experienced this. There was something you were passionate about. You threw yourself into it. It felt amazing for a while. And then the novelty wore off. The hard work showed up, the results were slow, and the passion faded. And you thought the problem was you. It wasn't you. It was that you were following an emotion instead of a direction.
Purpose isn't something you feel.
It's something you know. Purpose is not a goal. Goals are targets. Purpose is the reason you care about the targets. Goals have finish lines, but it doesn't. You can achieve every goal you've ever set and still feel empty if none of those goals were connected to something deeper. Think about it. Think about a time you achieved something you'd worked hard for, got the promotion, finished the course, hit the milestone, and then felt inexplicably flat. That flatness is the gap between a goal achieved and a purpose lived. Goals without purpose are just boxes to check. And you can check every single box and still go to bed at night feeling like you missed the point entirely. Purpose is not a single grand calling. This is the myth that paralyzes more people than almost anything else. The idea that your purpose is one specific, dramatic, universe-assigned mission, and if you haven't figured out what that is, you're somehow behind, broken, or unworthy. Stop waiting for the lightning bolt. It's not coming. Purpose isn't a single moment of revelation. It's a direction, an orientation, a way of moving through the world that is aligned with who you are and what you genuinely value. So, if it's not a passion, not a goal, and not a grand calling, what is it?
Purpose is a reason that's bigger than your comfort. Let me say that again, because it matters. Purpose is a reason that's bigger than your comfort. When you have a real purpose, you do hard things not because they're easy, but because they mean something. You wake up early, not because you're a morning person, but because what you're building matters more than sleep. You push through fear, not because fear is gone, but because your reason for moving forward is stronger than your reason for staying still. Purpose is also relational. It's almost always connected to other people, the people you're serving, the people you're building for, the people you want to make proud, the generations that come after you. Real purpose rarely lives inside the self alone. It reaches outward.
And here's what purpose does to you neurologically. When you act in alignment with deep purpose, your brain releases a different cocktail of chemicals, not the quick hit of dopamine from scrolling or sugar or approval. Something slower, steadier, more profound. Researchers call it eudaimonic well-being, the deep satisfaction that comes from living a life of meaning. You can't fake it. You can't hack it. You can only earn it by actually living it. You don't find purpose. You build it, one aligned choice at a time. And you start by getting honest about what genuinely matters to you. Not what should matter, not what looked good on paper. What actually lights something in you when you're fully honest. We'll get to how to find that in Chapter 5. But first, I need to tell you about the signal you've probably been misreading.
Chapter 3. The emptiness is trying to tell you something. The emptiness. That word. You know the feeling I'm talking about, even if you've never had a name for it. It's the hollow space that opens up in your chest sometimes, in the middle of a crowded room, in the middle of an ordinary day, in the middle of a life that, on paper, should feel like enough. And for most people, the emptiness is terrifying. So they do everything in their power to fill it. Stuff it with food, drink, noise, busyness, achievement, validation, and other people's opinions of them. Anything to make it quiet. But here's the thing. You cannot fill a purposeful space with purposeless things. Emptiness is not a wound. It's not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's not a symptom of weakness or failure or lack of gratitude. Emptiness is a signal. It's your deeper self, the part of you that knows what you're actually capable of, sending you a message. And the message is this. You are living below the level of what you're meant for. You are operating at less than your full expression, and some part of you knows it, and it refuses to let you be comfortable with less. Emptiness isn't the problem. The emptiness is the invitation. Think about hunger for a second. When your body is hungry, you feel an uncomfortable signal. You don't panic about hunger. You don't go to a therapist about hunger. You don't convince yourself that hunger means something is fundamentally wrong with you. You understand that it's a biological message that needs to be addressed. The emptiness you feel when you lack purpose works the same way. It's existential hunger. Your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call the deepest part of you, is telling you it needs feeding. The mistake most people make is trying to silence the hunger signal instead of responding to it properly.
I want you to think about the last time you felt genuinely, deeply satisfied with your life. Not happy, not entertained, not temporarily pleased. Deeply, quietly, bone-deep satisfied. What were you doing? Who were you with? What had you just accomplished or contributed? What were you working toward? I'd be willing to bet that at that moment you were aligned. You were doing something that mattered to you, something that connected to your values, something that contributed to something beyond yourself. You were, even if briefly, living with purpose. And the emptiness you feel now is simply the distance between that version of you and where you are today. That distance is not a life sentence, it's a map. It's showing you exactly where you need to go. It's showing you the gap between who you're being and who you're capable of becoming. And yes, looking at that gap honestly hurts. But the hurt is proof that you still care. The hurt is proof that the version of you who wants more is still alive in there. I want to say something to you that nobody may have said to you in a while. Your desire for more is not greed. It is not ingratitude. It is not arrogance. Your desire for a life that feels like it means something is one of the most human things about you. It's the thing that separates you from simply existing. It's the thing that makes you, you. Don't kill it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't let someone who's made peace with their own emptiness convince you that yours is a problem. Emptiness is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally. Listen to it. Chapter 4. Pain is your compass, not your punishment. I need to talk to you about pain. Not the kind that comes from injury or illness. I'm talking about psychological pain. The ache of regret, the sting of failure, the weight of dreams deferred, the grief of time you feel like you've wasted, the frustration of knowing you're more than the life you're currently living. Most people have a simple relationship with that pain. Avoid it. Don't look at it, don't poke it, distract yourself from it, numb it, manage it, medicate it, anything but actually face it. But what if pain were one of the most useful tools you have? What if, instead of trying to eliminate your pain, you learned to read it? Pain has direction. Every source of deep, persistent psychological pain is pointing at something. A value that's being violated, a dream that's being ignored, a truth that's being avoided, a version of yourself that's being suppressed. When you feel the ache of regret about a path you didn't take, that pain is pointing at what you actually wanted. When you feel the frustration of being unseen or undervalued, that pain is pointing to a need for contribution and significance that isn't being met. When you feel the hollow restlessness of going through the motions, that pain is pointing to the absence of genuine purpose in your daily actions. Your pain is not punishing you, it's directing you. If you'll just stop running from it long enough to ask what it's pointing at. Here is an exercise I want you to try. Not right now, don't pull over and start writing, but later, when you can sit quietly for 20 minutes.
I want you to think about the 3 things in your life that cause you the most persistent background pain. Not surface frustration, not temporary stress, but the deeper, ongoing aches that you've been carrying for a long time. Write them down. Then, next to each one, ask this question. What does this pain tell me I deeply value that I'm not honouring right now?
The pain of feeling trapped in a job that drains you, that's telling you that freedom, creativity, or contribution are core values that are being starved. The pain of feeling disconnected from the people you love, that's telling you that deep, authentic relationships are a core need that's being neglected. The pain of watching years pass without making the progress you wanted, that's telling you that growth and becoming are fundamental to who you are, and you've been standing still. This is the most powerful purpose-finding tool there is. Not a quiz, not a personality test, not a workshop. Your pain, honestly examined, is your most accurate map. I know this is hard. Sitting with pain, willingly, without immediately reaching for an escape hatch, is one of the hardest things a person can do. We are biologically wired to avoid it. Every comfort-seeking instinct in your body will resist this.
But here's what I've learned. The people who learn to sit with their pain, to examine it, to ask it the right questions, are the people who find their way. Not because they're tougher or smarter or more spiritually advanced, but because they stopped running long enough to let the compass do its job. And the compass, your pain, your longing, your deep unfulfilled hunger for more, always points in the same direction, toward purpose. So the next time you feel that ache, the next time the emptiness opens up and you reach for your phone or your food or your familiar numbing routine, I want you to stop, just for 60 seconds, and ask the pain one question. What are you trying to show me?
The answer might not come immediately. It might come in pieces, over days, but it will come. It always comes. You just have to be brave enough to listen. Chapter 5. How to hear your purpose when life is loud. By now, you've done something important. You've admitted you've been drifting. You've gotten honest about what purpose actually is. You've started to see your emptiness and your pain as data rather than damage. Now comes the question everyone gets to eventually. But how do I actually find my purpose? And I want to answer that honestly, which means I have to tell you something first. You will not find it in a weekend seminar. You will not find it in a 3-step framework. You will not find it by answering 4 questions in a personality quiz. Purpose is not discovered in a single moment. It is heard, gradually, over time, by someone who is paying close attention. But here is the good news. The signal is always there. Your purpose is not hiding from you. It's speaking to you constantly. The problem isn't the signal. The problem is the noise.
You can't hear the signal when you never turn down the noise. So the first and most powerful thing you can do is create silence. I don't mean silence like a monk in a cave. I mean moments, deliberate, protected moments where the input stops and you're just with yourself. No podcast, no music, no scrolling, no background noise. Just you and whatever rises. Most people are terrified of silence because in silence, the truth gets loud. The questions they've been avoiding start asking themselves. The gap between who they are and who they want to be becomes impossible to ignore. But that discomfort is exactly the doorway. 4 questions to ask in the silence. The first question is, what makes me lose track of time? Not what entertains you, not what's easy. What activities pull you in so fully that you look up and 2 hours have disappeared? That absorption is a clue. It's not the whole answer, but it's a direction.
The second question is, what breaks my heart about the world? Your most specific, persistent anger or grief about the state of things is a direct line to your values. And your values, when they're strong enough, become your purpose. The people who change the world are almost always driven by something they couldn't stand to leave unchanged. The third question is, who do I want to have mattered to? When your life is over, whose lives do you want to have genuinely changed? Your children? Your community? Strangers you never met? People who come after you? The answer to this question tells you something profound about the direction your purpose wants to point. The fourth question, and this one is the most powerful, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? Strip away the fear of failure. Strip away the fear of judgment. Strip away the fear of not being good enough. What would you be doing with your life right now? That answer is a direct line to your purpose.
Don't dismiss what comes up. Don't negotiate with it or shrink it down to something more realistic. Just hear it. Write it down. Sit with it. There is one more thing I want to say about hearing your purpose. You can't think your way to it. Purpose is not a mental exercise. It lives below the level of thought. It lives in the body, in the gut, in the feeling you get when something is finally, undeniably right. So, as much as I've given you questions to think about, I want you to also pay attention to how things feel. Not in the superficial, does this feel comfortable way. In the deeper, does this feel true way. There is a version of your life that, when you imagine it, makes something in you go quiet and certain. Find that. Build toward that. It might be small. It might not look impressive from the outside. It might not make you rich or famous or wildly celebrated. But it will make you whole. And the whole is worth more than anything else you could chase.
Chapter 6. The Daily Practice of Living on Purpose. There's a version of this story that ends here. You found some clarity, you feel something stirring, you're inspired. And then Monday comes, and the bills are still there, and the job is still the job, and the kids still need feeding, and the things you said you'd change are staring back at you with the same patient, immovable presence they always have. So let me be clear about something, because I don't want this to be another audiobook that makes you feel good temporarily. Purpose is not a feeling. The purpose is practice. It is something you do every single day, deliberately, consistently, even when the motivation is gone, even when the results aren't showing, even when nobody is watching or clapping or acknowledging what you're building. Inspiration is the spark. Discipline is the fire that keeps it burning. So, what does living on purpose actually look like on an ordinary day, in real life, with real constraints? It starts in the morning, before the world gets loud. I'm not going to tell you to wake up at 5 a.m. and meditate for an hour. I'm going to tell you to give yourself 10 minutes, just 10, before you reach for your phone, before you check your messages, before the demands of the day flood in, and ask yourself one question. What is one thing I can do today that is aligned with what I'm building? One thing, just one, that is connected to your direction, to your purpose, to the life you're slowly, deliberately constructing. It might be making one phone call, writing one paragraph,
having one honest conversation, taking one step towards something that matters. One thing every day, non-negotiable. This matters for a reason that goes beyond productivity. It matters because it sends a message to yourself. It says, I am someone who takes my purpose seriously. I am someone who shows up for their own life. I am someone who chooses direction over drift, even on the hard days. And identity, how you see yourself, is the engine of everything.
Then there is the practice of alignment checks. Once a week, sit down for 15 minutes. No phone, just you and a notebook, and ask 3 questions. What did I do this week that felt aligned with my purpose? What did I do that felt misaligned? What needs to change next week? That's it. Simple. But over weeks and months, those check-ins will do something remarkable. They'll start to close the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. Slowly, like stone water, but the direction will be unmistakable. The third practice is fiercely protecting your energy. When you're living with purpose, not just dreaming about it, but actively building it, your energy becomes the most precious resource you have. And most people let it drain away on things that don't matter. Arguments that go nowhere, content that adds nothing, obligations that serve other people's dreams while starving their own. This is not about being selfish, it's about being intentional. Every yes you say to something is a no to something else. Make sure the trade is worth it. Protect your purpose like it's the most important thing you own. Because it is.
The fourth practice is surrounding yourself with people who are also building. Perfect people. Not people who have it all figured out. People who are actively trying. People who ask good questions. People who hold you to a higher standard because they hold themselves to one. Your environment, the people in your daily orbit, is one of the single most powerful forces shaping your life. You cannot consistently drift toward your highest self in an environment that normalizes mediocrity and drift. And finally, the practice of giving yourself grace. There will be weeks when you don't do the morning question, when you don't do the alignment check, when you get swept up in the chaos of life and feel like you lost the thread again. That is normal. That is human. That is not failure. Failure is deciding not to come back. Failure is deciding that because you slipped, you're done. You are never done. You just start again. Every single morning is a new entry point. The thread is never as lost as it feels. You just pick it back up and keep going.
Chapter 7. The moment you stop drifting, everything shifts. I want to take you forward in time for a moment. I want you to imagine a version of yourself 6 months from now, a year from now, who has been doing the work, who has sat in silence, who has listened to the pain, who has asked the hard questions and been honest enough to hear the answers, who has done one small aligned thing every day without waiting to feel ready. What does that person feel like when they wake up in the morning? Not perfect, not arrived, not done, but moving, grounded, clear. There is a feeling that comes when you stop drifting and start directing. When you make the first decision that says, this is who I am, and this is where I'm going. It doesn't come with fireworks. It's quieter than that. But it is one of the most powerful feelings a human being can experience. It's the feeling of your own life finally making sense. I want to tell you about the shift. When you begin living with genuine purpose, the external circumstances of your life don't magically change overnight. The money doesn't immediately follow, the opportunities don't flood in, the hard work doesn't disappear. But something changes inside you that changes how you experience everything. Challenges start to feel different. They stop being obstacles between you and happiness and start being part of the process. You can tolerate difficulty, real sustained difficulty, when you know why you're enduring it. Purpose doesn't eliminate struggle, it gives struggle meaning. And meaning makes the unbearable bearable. Relationships start to shift. When you're clear about who you are and what you're building, you stop needing other people's validation to feel worthy. You stop seeking approval from people who never valued what you were building anyway, and you start attracting, slowly and genuinely, people who are aligned with the version of you that's emerging. Time starts to feel different. The Sunday dread lifts, or at least lightens, because even a Monday tied to purpose is more tolerable than a weekend tied to emptiness. The days start having a different texture. Not perfect, not easy, but intentional. And intentional days add up to an intentional life. And the emptiness, that hollow ache you've been carrying, starts to change shape. It doesn't disappear completely. Some mornings it still shows up. In some seasons it gets louder again. Purpose is not a cure for the human condition, but when you're living on purpose, the emptiness no longer terrifies you, because now you understand it. You know what it is. You know it's a signal, not a sentence. You know what to do with it. And that knowing, that's the thing that changes everything. So, let me bring this home. You started this audiobook feeling something. Maybe emptiness, maybe restlessness, maybe that quiet desperation of a life half-lived, maybe just a sense that there had to be more.
That feeling wasn't a weakness. That feeling was courage. The courage to admit that what you have isn't enough. The courage to want more. The courage to press play on something that might ask something of you. And now I'm asking you something. Not to have it all figured out, not to quit your job tomorrow or blow up your life or do something dramatic. I'm asking you to make one decision. The decision to stop drifting. To commit, starting today, to paying attention. To ask the questions. To sit in silence. To follow the pain to what it's pointing at. To do one aligned thing every day in the direction of the life that actually calls to you. It won't be linear. It won't be fast. There will be days when you feel like you've lost it again. But the person who keeps returning to their purpose, no matter how many times they get swept off course, that person eventually arrives somewhere remarkable. They arrive at a life that feels like theirs. And that, after all, is what this was always about. Not success by someone else's definition. Not a life that looks impressive from the outside. A life that when you lie down at the end of it, you know was yours. Chosen, built, lived on purpose. You deserve that life. You've always deserved it. Now go and build it. Stop drifting. Start living. The power is yours. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If something in this audiobook moved you, if one line landed somewhere that needed landing, please take a moment to share it with someone who needs to hear this, someone in your life who's drifting, someone who's forgotten their own direction. Leave a comment below telling me the one thing from this audiobook that hit home for you. I read every single one. And if you're not subscribed yet, join the Brighter Existence community. Every week we go deeper. Every week we choose growth. Every week we choose to exist a little more brightly. Until next time, keep going.